So, more news to come out of the DC streaming site that is coming soon. You know, the one with Young Justice Season 3, the Metropolis TV show, and now they've announced another TV show coming next year, a live-action TV show from James Wan, the director of The Conjuring 1 and 2, the kind of the head of the Conjuring universe, which I still don't know why it needs to be a thing. Yeah, why do we need a shared movie? I understand, yeah, it's a shared horror movie universe, but Conjuring, when I watched those two movies, I was like, did we really need a shared universe out of this? Or a loosely based shared universe out of this? Whatever. So yeah, James Wan also is directing Aquaman, which is coming out this year. I have to remind myself that this is coming out this year. But he is also going to be showrunning a new live-action Swamp Thing TV show for the DC streaming site. That is right, a new Swamp Thing TV show. Which actually, this is not the first time Swamp Thing has had a TV show. If you guys remember, there was one in like the 90s. I think it only went for one... No, I think it went on for more than one season. It also had Johnny Depp in it. And yeah, it was based... I think it was in the same continuity as the the Wes Craven movie and its sequel. I think Wes Craven directed that one too, if I'm not mistaken. And I actually liked the Wes Craven Swamp Thing movie. I thought it was pretty neat. It's kind of I think it's kind of underrated, but that's just me though. Anyway, so I think it's cool that we're getting a live-action Swamp Thing, but guys, I gotta be straight with you. I really gotta be straight with you. I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford the DC streaming service. And I know what you're saying, but DPZ, what about like Metropolis and Titans and all that other stuff? Well, yeah, I can't. My family and I can't afford every streaming service. That's the problem. We can't afford every streaming service. I mean, yeah, I could keep, Netflix and all that, but I just, we can't all keep up with all of it. So, unfortunately, there's got to be some sacrifices. So, yeah. This might be one of them. Anyway, I'm not made of money, I'm sorry to tell you. Anywho, moving on from that sad part, but let's talk a bit about how this could all play out. Let's talk a bit about how a Swamp Thing TV show could play out. But actually, let's get the elephant out of the room first. Let's address the elephant in the room. After seeing the Teen Titans costumes, I mean, yeah, Robin, Hawk, and Dove look really good, and even Beast Boy and Raven, to an extent, look very salvageable. But, yeah, that Starfire costume, if you didn't tell me that that was supposed to be Starfire for the Titans TV show, I would have thought that was like for Josie, live-action Josie and the Pussycats TV show or something. And I know, yes, they're in Riverdale, but you see the joke. But yeah, it just does not look like Starfire. And again, maybe, it was just a set photo and the jacket was on, and I understand that, yeah, that big puffy coat is to protect the costume, but it did not help when, that doesn't help the case when the costume looks more like a go-go dancer than, an alien from another world. And it's not because, you're just, I'm not saying that, she's African-American, that's why you're saying it. Starfire's an alien from another world and her skin is orange. Race has got nothing to do with it. In fact, I was actually kind of happy that we had a woman of a different ethnicity playing Starfire. But that costume really turned me off, and I was like, man, I hope they have, CGI or something for that, for making her orange. Because I've seen cosplayers better than what that was. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. Actually, no. Topic being is that I'm a little concerned that might be the case with Swamp Thing, because Swamp Thing is a guy covered in full body swamp. Yeah, there is no unless they do something like, I don't know, he can become swamp. Alec Holland can turn himself into the Swamp Thing at points and use that power, rather than just be in a full body costume or motion capture, or however they're going to bring Swamp Thing to life. That's my concern, is that they'll cheap out on it. They'll cheap out on making Swamp Thing, look like Swamp Thing. But yeah, that's my budget, it's a budgeting concern. And I know what you're thinking, but DPZ, for the TV show, he was in full-on costume. Yeah, but not all the time. They didn't show him, if I recall right, because it's been a while since I've seen the Swamp Thing TV show, you didn't see a lot of Swamp Thing in there. They used him sparingly. Or maybe they used him in every shot. I can't frickin' remember. The point is, as I recall, that suit was kind of expensive. The other thing is that you need an actor who can, be in that suit and emote, and, because Swamp Thing is a very deep and logical character. There's a lot of postulating with the likes of Swamp Thing. So you need someone who can really bring that kind of finesse and, that kind of tragedy that Alec Holland and Swamp Thing, because remember, in the Alan Moore run, Alec Holland is no more, and it's more like the Swamp kind of merged with his corpse and his consciousness to become what it thinks is Alec Holland, and hence is Swamp Thing is born. So, yeah. So I'm wondering if they're just going to be like, oh, it's Alec Holland, but he's really Swamp, or they're just going to be like, no, the Swamp and, Swamp and mystical bullshit happened, and it thinks it's Alec Holland, but it's not really Alec Holland. And, yeah, I think a lot of this is going to involve a lot of the Scott Snyder run, even though I guarantee that there'll be some stuff from the Alan Moore run, but I guarantee that the main focus will be the Rot. The Rot will be the main villain. I don't know who you could get for Anton Arcane, but the thing about Anton Arcane is that you could bring him back in so many different ways. He's like Anton Arcane is like a cockroach. You can't kill that motherfucker for the life of you. So in a way, you could get away with doing multiple actors. Hell, in some cases, you could do like a CGI or practical effects character to play Anton Arcane, because he came back in so many different forms. So yeah. Also, another thing is going to be who do you get for Abby Arcane? That's another thing I'm thinking about. But I think the big thing is Alec. Depending on how they use him. So obviously they're going to involve a lot of the Green, the Rot. The Rot's going to be another big thing. That's going to be the big villain of the series, I'm pretty sure. But here's my other question. What if they bring in the Red, which is the connection of the web of life and animal life? Much like the Green is for all plant life, the Red represents all animal life. So my question is, in this show, could we see Animal Man show up at some point? Could we get Animal Man in here because he is the champion of the Red? So, yeah, it'd be interesting if this could be a way we could bring in other characters from, DC/Vertigo. I mean, you could get away with having Constantine in here, assuming they let him be in here outside of Legends of Tomorrow, because I know Constantine is gonna be a full-on character in Legends of Tomorrow, as a full-time cast member. But maybe they'll have him show up in here in some capacity, because John and Swamp Thing are kind of close in the comics. The other characters you could see is maybe Madame Xanadu, Boston Brand, a lot of the Justice League Dark characters, and like I said, some of the DC Vertigo would be cool. Like I said, Animal Man was on the Vertigo title for a while. You could make the case for having Sandman characters in here as well. There's so many characters, in here you could bring in, but it's a lot, Swamp Thing on his own is a very deep and logical character, and, those comics have a major fan base, so it's going to be interesting to see where they could go with this. It looks like it's going to be very horror-based from the way James Wan was kind of, excuse me, I'm getting tongue-tied here. The way James Wan has done work, but he's also good at character stuff. I've noticed he's good at character stuff, from some of the stuff from The Conjuring 1 and 2. He's really good at building some character in there. Honestly, if he wasn't already apparently set to play Ocean Master, I think Patrick Wilson could play Swamp Thing. But then again, actually no, he could probably... Patrick Wilson, who also played Night Owl in Watchmen, he could actually still play Swamp Thing, because these aren't connected to... It's not like the MCU, where everything's kind of connected. This is actually all in its own separate stuff. So honestly, you could get Patrick Wilson to play Alec Holland / Swamp Thing. But again, it kind of depends on how they could play that out. So yeah, you could get him to play it would be now 3 DC characters Patrick Wilson could play. But again, I'm just kind of fan casting here. So, anyway, Yeah. I'm wondering how they're going to get around doing this. You know, it all depends on the budget, really. I'm curious, and I'm hopeful this works, because we had it once before, so maybe we can have it again with new effects. So you guys tell me in the comments below, what do you guys think of a Swamp Thing live-action show? Who would you get to play Swamp Thing? Do you think we'll have the Anton Arcane? Just comment below, let me know, and once again, I hope you all enjoyed this, and I'm out.